Hello and welcome to Data Protection Conversations. I'm Christophe Bertrand, Senior Analyst with ESG, and today I have the pleasure of having a couple of friends with me to talk about Salesforce.com and backup and recovery. There are a number of issues with Salesforce.com backup and recovery. Our research shows that governor limits are an issue, recovery is difficult, and it's hard to manage very large environments. As a matter of fact, the recovery point objectives are very stringent. The mean recovery point objective for Salesforce.com is 30 minutes. And in order to be successful, it is important to have the right solution in place. Let me introduce a couple of guest speakers today. I'd like to introduce Vinny Showinski. Vinny is our senior analyst for validation and technical matters. He knows Salesforce really well and has done a lot of work on the technology. I have also the pleasure of welcoming Jonathan Siprick from Manulife. Jonathan, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Well, let's start with you, Jonathan. Can you tell us about your role and responsibility at Manulife?
Absolutely. So I'm the Assistant Vice President of Salesforce Engineering within Manulife. I oversee a wonderful team and a portfolio that really drives enablement within sales for customer service, the sales domain, the marketing domain, and enabling applications for our apps and web apps.
So Jonathan, how critical is Salesforce in your organization? And can you tell us a little bit about the journey getting Salesforce deployed?
So Manulife's had a very long and healthy relationship with Salesforce. Just over 11 years, they're proud to be a COA customer of Salesforce and is identified as one of the strategic partners. It's a very strong relationship. A number of years ago, about 5 or 6 years ago, things really started picking up as Manulife became more and more customer-centric. Whether it's for enabling different activities for banking customers or insurance customers, the customer life cycle is critical to that. So whether it's securities or insurance or various group member activities and enabling advisors, the Salesforce domain plays really well and is really successful within financial services. And so Manulife across the board has really been tightening up their processes and using Salesforce to enable their processes to operationalize their information.
Could you tell us a little bit about what you are doing for backup and recovery, how you approached it, and we'll take it from there.
Sure. So our journey around backup and recovery started a number of years ago, where a collection of architects and enterprise architects started getting together to recognize that the standard offering that Salesforce put forward is really insufficient to drive mission-critical operations when something catastrophic goes wrong at the data level, particularly if your user base or your employees do something to the data or you change it. It can create a long period of time before you get the data back to the way you want it. And there really isn't the granularity that large enterprise needs to be able to handle that. And that's where a good group of architects really started looking for a better solution across the globe for Manulife operations. And so that's across Asia, John Hancock in the States, and through Canada.
And once you decided that you were looking for a third party or a layered backup solution, what were some of the key challenges you wanted to consider as you were evaluating the solutions?
Most Salesforce customers out there are taking advantage of the standard capability of backing up once a week. And really when you start driving mission critical operations, the frequency and how well you can back up and restore your data, how efficiently you can do that in a very large volume, that's where the differentiators start to play out. And so we really decided to move forward with Odaseva, starting with Canada, because of the restore point objectives that we needed to meet to make sure that if something was to happen to our data, we would be able to get it back to a state across a very large number of Salesforce objects with mixed granularity to get it back into a healthful state.
So you mentioned Odaseva, which is really a platform that not only does backup and recovery, but a number of other capabilities. Why was the choice of more of a platform rather than maybe a patchwork of solutions or leveraging existing utilities so important to you and so critical to your choice?
It's certainly, number one, it's certainly easier to operate with a large strategic application and group technologies together where they really make sense. And so moving from the concept of a utility to a backup platform and a recovery platform, that's a benefit of being able to move into the partnership with Odaseva. And so the concept of being able to move data from production environments or anonymized data, or being able to move data fluidly between non-production environments and sandboxes, certainly had a lot of benefit. The concept of being able to partner with a service provider that can organize and teach your team of how to do that is really critical in terms of the partnership and getting the most out of making sure your backup and your recovery has a healthful process while you're really learning to own that process for yourself.
Now, do you find you have a pretty large organization that you described? Do you feel Odaseva is going to be able to scale with you as your Salesforce environment grows?
Yeah, so absolutely. I think that certainly while we have a large footprint, and we're well aware that Odaseva has even larger clients than Manulife, but they have a pretty comprehensive architecture that has the right security and compliance in place that goes with something that's also cloud native and very scalable.
How critical was their expertise, Odaseva's expertise, in guiding you in this context of large-scale deployment?
There's some very particular things that Odaseva helped with during the evaluation process, because we really did put Odaseva through the ringer. The background in security and compliance and dealing with large enterprise certainly made it very, very helpful. The stringent requirements, particularly in a regulated industry, it really allowed us to move more quickly than if we didn't have those things in place, and the expertise on their side in terms of familiarity with regulatory activities, regulatory expectations, even something as simple as data residency for operating outside of the United States, fundamental things that large enterprise needs outside of throughout the world. That's really, really important.
What was the process of qualifying them as a vendor?
Yeah, so in terms of our vendor management process, it's incredibly stringent, and it took a lot longer than certainly it would when you're dealing with another large enterprise. And so we were able to really, one, have confidence and evidence in what the technology was, how it was provided, and how it was guaranteed. It did take a while because large financial services companies are not used to dealing with small companies. But it's critical when there's a competitive advantage that you can run with to get the kind of performance that you need. Sometimes you need to be able to partner with smaller companies. So I'm really happy with where we ended up.
Beyond backup and recovery with Odaseva's platform, what other areas are you looking at? And I'm thinking really Salesforce data operations, archiving, and compliance, of course.
Some smaller things that certainly we're looking at growing into. I mentioned anonymization as an example. There's a collection of tools available in the platform to be able to easily take data and move that and distribute that wherever you need it very quickly. So those are some of the more, I would say, tactical things that just enable faster development. In terms of something of great interest to me that, certainly looking at is the ability when and if there was some type of unplanned downtime or planned downtime from Salesforce, the ability for call centers to continue to be able to operate and have visibility of the data in context of their application, that certainly reduces the cost of unplanned downtime.
Jonathan, Vinny, thank you so much for sharing your experiences and really for telling us more about how critical it is to protect data in Salesforce environments and the complexities that come with that enterprise scale. That's all the time we have for today. So thank you everyone for watching.